Morning. Welcome to Talking Racine. On my left, Mr. Ken Lumpkin, Mr. George Myers.
Good morning.
To my right, Jim Spodek, producer, and myself, Dr. Ken Jorgen, your host. And you people need to send us thank you cards because we just took a hit for you. We watched a good part of the City Council meeting discussion of the proposed bullying ordinance. And man, oh man, Mayor Mason referred to it as a dizzying discussion, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, he was being kind. It was a rough one to wade through. I mean, this is a serious issue. It really is. I mean, I remember having an older brother and getting pushed around and being terrorized. I think just about everybody at some point in their life has experienced from somebody else intimidation and bullying. And it's a serious issue. And it's varying degrees of seriousness too. So the City Council, a couple of members, specifically Jason Miekma and Tracy Laren of the 14th and 4th districts, decided to at least make the attempt to pass a bullying ordinance in the city of Racine. Now, I don't know, gentlemen, do any of you recollect being made aware of any culture, any city, any place, any tribal setting where bullying had been eliminated?
Eliminated?
Yeah.
No, it probably been attempts.
Yeah, it's a tough thing.
No, it's part of life, and and I'm just going to say this comment. We'll talk about it later if you want to. I think part of the problem is they only look at kids when they look at bullying.
Well, at the council meeting in the public comment section, Kelly Gallagher got up and addressed.
Yeah, that's right.
Adult bullying.
And Tracy Laren made a little two-word comment about it, but never expanded on it.
Yeah.
So.
And I'll tell you what, I've been targeted by a couple of people. Personally, I find it kind of stupid and, in a way, kind of entertaining. You know, when somebody anonymously attacks you on the internet. But I can see where somebody who maybe doesn't have a better perspective on that kind of a thing would be genuinely terrified by people. I mean, and there are instances where kids have actually committed suicide because they've been driven to such fear and eventually self-loathing that they kill themselves. So it's a serious problem.
True. But the thing that Kelly Gallagher is experiencing doesn't apply to the law because all her person, what do I call her, attacker, is doing is he's posting things on a website. It's real easy for her to avoid that. Don't go to the website.
Right.
The law applies to when you're getting emails which are going to you.
So he was not
text is going
assuming
to
it's
you.
a he. None of that was being sent directly to her email box. It was just all.
No. It's just what she held up there was what was what she downloaded and printed up from his website.
A ream of paper of stuff she had printed out.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Bullying is it's not going away. I looked at this and to me, how are you going to fix this? I mean, let's get down to the reality of it. Bully's been around, going to continue to bully. You're going to make a law, and you're going to punish parents, and in this case, whoever has control over a household, up to $1,000 for people that more than likely can't afford. And here's where I'm looking at.
Part of
when you look at the council, and you're coming up with these bullying ordinance, and they're all running down to show it because there's not a lot of it out there. Went through, even in California, they tried it and they didn't pass it because it just didn't make any sense. To me, it's almost like you're trying to protect something you can't protect. And what really gets me kind of is this, and I don't want to say liberal conservative, but the liberal mindset that says, oh, we have to protect people from this type of harassment and behavior, and then we need to cause an ordinance. And take this ordinance and then attach a penalty to it. Now, what are you really doing? Are you really correcting the problem, or are you just attacking people that probably have an issue with a child or whatever and causing more financial burden? The whole thing's a joke. I think it should be dropped and just let it go away. Now they've got this thing in the ordinance or
it's in committee right now.
Yeah, I just think drop the whole thing. Let it go.
Here's
We've got
the thing.
state statute.
What you said is I think is true. You're not going to eliminate bullying from society, but let's take a little more idealistic world and say we can do it. If you were going to do it, you would first have to get rid of the bullying that goes on in the adult part of this system. You have to get rid of all the police bullying that goes on, fire department bullying, teacher bullying. I've heard about teacher bullying. I've heard about social worker bullying. There's a lot of bullying going on. And where do you think the kids pick it up from?
Yeah.
They're getting it from the adults.
To me,
that's where they
George,
get
again,
all their way of living.
Who
is
got
from
it
the
from
adults.
generations prior to themselves?
That's right.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I'm not saying you can get rid of it, bullying, because adults bully each other. In fact, the cops and the judges and the teachers that bully, they think it's part of the job description.
Yeah, right.
They think that's the way you get the job done.
Yeah.
Is you have to do a little
Yeah,
bullying.
you've been in
from
court
time
when
to
you
time.
just gotta just go down. I'm thinking to myself, hey, you're way off base here, Judge.
Yeah.
But
Have you? I don't
Yeah.
think a judge goes. I mean, I've seen enough courtrooms. I don't think any judge makes it through a day without doing one bully.
yeah, they have to. I think that's part of their route.
They just figure they have to do it.
Yeah.
Well, it's
And-
part of what drives these TV court shows.
Well, not to mention the
Yeah.
movies and stuff.
Yeah.
So the point is you're not going to get rid of it. But if you were going to get rid of it, you'd have to get it out of the movies, get it out of the adult population. Then the kids will follow suit, and they'll
Yeah.
quit bullying too. But what you said, Jim, is that's just not going to happen.
No.
Well, a punitive response doesn't strike me as
No.
being the right way to go. I mean, I was
That's like
pretty
whipping
active.
that's like whipping the slaves. You have to behave this
Yeah.
way, and if you don't, plan.
Well,
I was
to
in
me,
a Peace and Justice Racine Peace and Justice Coalition for a number of years, and there was a group of people that were an offshoot of that, and they came up with a thing I believe was started in Indiana called Peace Learning Circles, and they went around to schools and they educated the kids about how to better interact with each other and not engage in bullying and not engage in violence. And they got
That's
really
good.
good results.
Yeah, I believe it.
And I think that has a far better chance of being successful than fining the parents. I mean, that's punitive. That's
You teach a kid how to communicate. If you just had little communication courses, how
Yeah.
you talk to people,
Right.
You're not going to get rid of it. We're not denying that, but you can surely reduce it.
Yeah.
You can get it down to a point. I mean, when last time I got bullied, relatively recently, it didn't bother
I'm
me.
sorry about that too,
Yeah.
George.
Yeah.
Well, I knew I was getting bullied. It was by a fire department guy, but I just handled it with communication. We ended up shaking hands when we left.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something that. It's not that hard to deal with. It's just that you have to recognize it's going on, and you deal with it communication. You don't deal with it by shooting them or something
Yeah,
like that. It'd be
right.
totally stupid. That just increases the intensity. So, no, you're right. Though I had never heard of that before, but that, to me, is the way you do it, is you go around and you teach these kids how to talk with each other, how you deal with people, and learn the old adage that we all knew as kids: sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. That's no longer names will hurt you now.
Well, I think it's very.
Today, boy, look out.
I think one thing that's really important is for children to experience a place of safety. Some children don't have a safe place to be.
That's right.
At home, at school, anywhere. And that's a horrible way to
no,
live.
there's some brought up. There's some families that are dysfunctional and they don't necessarily work well, or other families that just have they're struggling. They're struggling, and now you put and it's all been said. They're having issues, and those issues maybe spell out in school, or on a playground or whatever. But to go after the parents is absolutely crazy. And now you don't just throw in some mental health into the middle of that. Now what are you going to do with that? Let's find those parents because that child has got some kind of a mental health issue.
What bothered me is the fact that whenever you have laws like this created, on one hand you see the waste of money on projects and programs and etc. But here they target pretty much people from the poor community and fining.
Yeah.
We never try to create no other way of solving problem, but to attach a money to the fine and try to find people
Right.
that really can't afford it.
How do you?
in many cases.
What made you feel that they were targeting poor communities, though?
I look at and I constantly have parents talk to me about how if they kid. I know one individual. She recently was put in jail for not her kids not being in school so many days, and she wasn't even aware that they wasn't going to school.
Right.
But yet she was put in jail. She was fined tremendously high.
But again, why do you think they're targeting poor people with with this ordinance specifically.
Doc, let's go to the real world here. Why do you think cars are towed more in the hood than they are from the north side or the south side? They can be just
They don't
as
have driveways for one thing.
well, the thing is, the registration
Yeah.
can be just as even. Why are assessments different in the hood considered higher for the same house? You're not going to get $75,000 for this, but you sure as heck are going to get $150 for the $75,000 assessment on the other side of town. There are so many inequities in that whole system. The poor people toe the line on financing the community. And they have been, and they will continue to do that unless things change. And when I see this kind of stuff and all the wasted time and energy on this, to be quite frank, it says, hey, there's other issues out here that can be addressed that can actually benefit the community, and I like the fact. Get in it.
All right. Okay, I see what you're saying.
I'm going?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. What you're saying basically is there's inequitable enforcement of the law. So they're not really targeting with the ordinance. What they're doing is they're targeting in general, and the ordinance is another arrow in the quiver. That's what you're saying, basically.
Yeah,
Huh? Okay.
and nobody talked on there about what are some preventions we can do. Now, there's plenty that can be done, and you have to start to become a community, and that's really what you can't sit up on this on these thrones, and we're going to make a law now that's going to make bullying go away by attaching a fine to the parents or to the individual who they feel has some control over it.
Yeah.
Totally
And why are they doing this collectively with the school board?
Yeah.
Why they don't have them involved?
that
It seems
was
like it's
mentioned.
more of a money-making thing.
Absolutely,
in
that's
my
exact-
opinion.
yeah, me
This
too.
is just one person's opinion, but it seems like it's more of a money-making thing than a prevention or
Right.
trying to solve the problem.
Nobody's
I
talking
don't
about
think
it.
money making was the intent on of the people who brought this ordinance forth. I really don't think so.
We should
I think
take a look at the people that brought this ordinance forth.
I think punishment was
Larry Migba?
their goal.
Punishment.
Yeah.
I
I don't think it was a fundraising thing.
I don't think that kids should be punished.
No, not the
In some
kids, the
kind-
parents.
Well, how can parents really be? They're not there. They don't understand.
And who makes the rulings? Who says, "Oh, I was bullied" or "I wasn't bullied"?
I had two of the sweetest kids, and I remember in elementary school I used to take them to school every morning. So one morning I decided to make a trip around the block, park my car, and observe what they was doing. And I had my camera, and I took some pictures. My son was getting out of the car, bipod, real nice, and going right there taking the kids' lunches. And I had a picture of it. And I asked him,
You did surveillance on your kid?
yeah, you need some parent. And I asked him that afternoon, how was school, what did you do, And I'd say, what did you do this morning when I let you out? He said, oh, I hooked up with my friends and we had a good time.
Yeah, he didn't mention the strong arm robbery. Yeah.
So you can never tell,
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
we think our kids are the sweetest little kids, but,
To me, it's
Jeez.
just drop the whole thing. You've got a state statute. There's, I want to play this part where Molly Jones actually makes a good point, where she comes up and says, where are the statistics?
Yeah, you're right.
I mean,
she did speak well to this. And,
Yeah,
there were
I
a
mean,
couple
she-
others that did too, but she brought it down.
she kind of brought it right down to it. So,
Yeah.
I'm going to play this, and then we'll come back.
I seized the opportunity when this was going, and I've asked several questions to Attorney Latney, and then I sent a communications to Chief Howell to just see some of the statistics from the Racine Unified School District for children who had been bullied or any other problems that they'd had in the school. And I think echoing with prevention rather than an ordinance would help tremendously. And I have a list of some of the statistics that the police department have, and the majority of the bullying complaints were not substantiated later on. So I think it would be important if we look at the entire picture, especially prevention, before we pass this law. Thank you.
Well, that kind of thing is important, knowing what the statistics are, getting
Yeah,
an
and how much
actual
how much
factual
change it really
basis.
made.
Yeah.
You had all these penalties in place, and did it really change anything? And like I say, it goes back to what I think the way it would happen is you'd have to get it out of the adult population, get all the bullying there, and then the kids will follow suit because they learn by watching adults. I mean,
absolutely.
you learn more at home by watching your parents than you do in school or any place else. You'll learn things other places. Not
Right.
saying that, but percentage-wise, most of what you're learning comes from right at home.
So do you advocate the death penalty for bad parenting?
Definitely not.
Not quite. I don't,
Because that would be going on at home.
That would be a little extreme.
Yeah, that would.
Glad you're
I'm not sure, but is there anything in officer friendly when he go to a school
his program?
that he really dig into this bullying? Is there any type of program that's in the school system?
Well, the Peace Learning Circles is in the school system. I believe they're still active.
Okay.
Yeah, it's. You remember being a kid. I mean, it's.
Seems like yesterday.
Yeah, just like yesterday. But I mean, kids get into certain things, and it's just you're not necessarily going to because officer friendly came or somebody they're going to teach you different ways. That doesn't mean you're going to connect with it. It's just part of life.
Well, kids do stupid things.
Yeah,
They're just
and it's
learning
just-
about life,
right.
and they're going to go out and make a mistake, and sometimes it can be a pretty. I remember the first toy that I stole.
Yeah.
That was the last toy that
the
I stole
first
too.
one? Oh,
Yeah, it
okay,
was the
all right.
last one. But
I thought you were gonna really be
I still
a
remember that
lifelong
lesson.
pattern here.
Yeah.
I still remember that lesson. I took it home. I was about 4 or 5 years old, and my mom, "Where'd you get that toy?" I said, "Well, I just picked it up off a kid. I just picked it off." I had to go walk back there with it, knock on the lady's door, say apologize, and a whole ball of wax, and it was the last toy I stole.
Yeah.
So, but the point was is that, I didn't learn by punishment or anything like that. I just learned by, and I'd made a mistake. That's what we were talking about. I just didn't think anything of it. There's a toy in the
here's
ground.
one
I
of the
like
things.
it. I took it.
I wanted to kind of bring up was, if you've noticed on this debate, they've talked about bringing in the unified school system, different groups. I want to talk about all these different areas we want to bring in and talk about bullying and how the community should be involved in this. And I'm thinking back, wait a sec, we were doing a $55 million arena that somebody said, hey, we should do a referendum and let the community in. Whoa, we are the governing body.
Yeah, we don't need any input.
We
on
are the
that.
governing body, and we know how to, this is good for you, and this is how it should be done. So, I mean, I'm like,
That's a good point.
there's some real credibility issues as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's just puzzling to me now. Why are they doing this?
Well, why don't we?
Tracy
What-
Laren,
why don't we-
Tracy Laren was a sponsor. Have you got that?
She's got clips of both
clip
of
of
them.
her?
Yeah, why don't we take
That's
a
her-
These are the sponsors.
Yeah, let's hear what Tracy has to
Okay.
say about it.
Yes, I'm going to speak in favor of adopting this tonight. I do totally understand prevention, education, but I don't know, the words are lost. We need to get this passed so that we can get to a point of figuring out what prevention and everything that Alderman of the Third has talked about. It's not, I don't think we can do, and Alderman Lutney, if you can, Attorney Lutney, can we make an ordinance of prevention? Or is that a separate entity of this? I think this should get passed so that we have the foundation to know that where to go after, with very good guidance from others. So I speak in favor of adopting this tonight and then going forward with, I don't know if it's our body, if it's our job to create prevention plans, or if that's other organizations, social workers, or whatever, but this needs to get passed so that we can start our people, and it's not just kids. This does represent anybody, anywhere, grocery store, parks. If a child is bullying, get caught bullying, it is up to the police. Parents will get notified before they are ticketed. It states that in here, so in short, I wish we would to pass this tonight. Thank you.
Okay, well, Tracy had some things to say there.
At least she suggested that, this would apply to more than just the kids.
Yeah.
There's only a
Yeah.
couple words there. She didn't expound on it, but I'll give her that credit because
Well, she was struggling there a bit. Let's put Jason on and see what his opinions are.
Yeah,
what he's got
okay,
to
right.
say.
This is the other.
He's the other sponsor.
he was the other
yeah.
sponsor,
Okay.
co-sponsor.
I'm very torn on this issue. I understand the need to have this. I think it's a very important thing. I wouldn't have pursued this with Alderwoman Laren if I didn't think this was important. But I think haste is inappropriate at this time. I think we need time. I don't think that passing it and expecting to go back and revisit it with amendments is appropriate, because that's not sending a very good message. And I understand the fact, and I've spoken with Attorney Letney, but there's not a lot of language that can necessarily be changed in this ordinance. And I understand that. But we're not, when we vote on an ordinance, when we make a decision on this council, it's not just, we're opposing or we're approving this ordinance. We're sending a message. Everything we do sends a message. If that weren't true, then the news wouldn't be here tonight. We are constantly sending a message to our community. And if we are not sending a message that resonates with the community, if we are not sending a message that is unified to the community, if we are not sending the right message, then we continue to trip over ourselves, to fumble, because we never really accomplish what we could accomplish if we just took the time to do it right. I think this is one of those opportunities where we can send an incredibly powerful message, whether it's prevention or unity or just what we believe should happen in regards to bullying. We have that opportunity. And if we just go ahead and pass it tonight because we're going to go and revisit it with amendments later, we're not sending a very strong message about how we feel about this. We're sending a message of, well, it's good enough, and maybe if we get around to coming back to it, we will, but that's fine for now. That's not a strong enough message. We need to take responsibility as a body and send the right message, strong messages on how we believe these things should go and how we need to operate. We're going to have some major decisions before us here. And I hope we're going to take the time for those, just like I hope we're going to take the time for this.
Well, he don't know like he knows what the hell he's talking about either. What the?
Well, at least he knew better than to put something out there. That
You
needs
shouldn't
to be done.
do that with him.
Yeah.
No, he won't cut it out.
That's a cutout.
He'll leave.
All right. So we're ready back from the cut. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Jason had a little more clarity in the situation there. Now,
Well, I like the idea of not passing an ordinance until it's in the final form that you want it. Let's not say, okay, it was the old the healthcare thing. We can't. We have to find. Only way we can know what's in this bill is to pass it first.
Right.
What you really need to know is you have to know what it is and what it's going to accomplish before you pass it. Now, if you're wrong,
well, wait a minute. Before you even answer Ken's question of why are we doing this?
huh? Yeah.
Well, I tell you,
That was a great reaction. Huh?
I'm going back to it too. I got the same thing. Why are we doing this? It's a good question.
Well, the motivations are good, but I think the procedure is like it's a struggle. It's a real struggle.
Now, some people have accused them of just wanting to raise money, and
Yeah.
I've heard that, and that could be in there. I just don't see it of Jason and Tracy.
No,
Leonard,
I don't either.
That they're doing it for money. I think they think that they can do something about it using punishment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a really. I mean, punishment can be useful from time to time, but I tell you what, in general, it's not a real workable technique. Much better is
No,
the teaching, and
doesn't
like you
bring
brought
any
about
success.
this communicating with people. What was the name of that program you said?
Peace learning circles.
Peace Learning Circles. That sounds much more effective than all right, we're going to fine you, we're going to kick you out of school.
Well, one of the things too, the equitable, well, if you really want to look at something, I can show you a lot of places where it's very unfair in certain parts of town to other portions of town. I did a little breakdown on assessments. Assessments is pretty interesting.
Have you
area.
looked at assessments?
Yes, I have.
I have looked at it many times.
Yeah, assessments. You want to look at assessments? Who's paying the most in
Yeah,
taxes?
every Sunday they put out a list of assessments, and if you list them in the order of their sales price, from the $300,000 down to the $10,000 homes, those at the bottom are all overassessed. They're selling for less than an assessment,
Yep.
and those at the top are all selling for more than what they're assessed.
Now, do you feel bullied by the assessor?
Well,
Yes, I do. Maybe this isn't such a bad
if
idea.
I think about it long enough, I do.
But here's the thing. I mean,
I just
We're going to
anybody,
get this ordinance
I said-
passed now.
I go right
Yeah,
back.
yeah, I would love. You know what? If they pass that ordinance, and what I would say is the first 10 cases are adult cases. You
Yeah.
bring it against the cops and the teachers and the building department inspectors. And if you've done 10 of those, now you can take one kid.
There you go.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this discussion. I hope you learned something from it. I feel like we did,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
interesting.
it's an interesting subject. It's an important subject, and good luck to the city council dealing with it. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next Monday. Oh, wait a minute.
We need a forum.
Yeah, we need to tell you about the forum this Saturday. We're going to have the Machinery Row Forum. That's February 17th, is it?
17th,
17th.
Saturday,
17th.
10 o'clock
Saturday.
in the morning.
Until
Gateway.
noon.
Yep.
At the Great Lakes Room.
Great Lakes Room.
Yeah, I'd
We'll
like
all
to
be there.